with the mixture. Everyone started to earn their points.
Dame i gospodo, još jednom dobar dan, dobrodošli u Republiku Srbiju i grad Beograd. Ja sam potpukovnik Pukojević Arsenije, načelnik Verifikacionog centra. Gospodin se državna sekretar, gospodine Vujiću, gospodo generali, zvanično predlažem da počnemo sa posvetom odlučnom bazi u ovom objektu Vojske Srbije. Želim vam prijatan boravak i
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Republic of Serbia and Belgrade. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Arsenije Vukojević, and I'm the Chief of the Verification Center of the Republic of Serbia. State Secretary, Assistant Minister, Generals, this is the official commencement of the visit to an air base and the military facility of the Serbian Armed Forces, and I wish you a pleasant stay and successful work.
U skladu sa planom koji ste dobili, odbranim govorom će vam se obratiti pomoćnik ministra spoljnih poslova, gospodin Zoran Vujić. Izvolite.
According to the visiting agenda that you have in front of us, Mr. Zoran Vujić, who is the Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, is going to greet you first. Actually, he's going to deliver a welcome address. So, please, Mr. Vujić, take the floor.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is a great honor and pleasure to welcome you all and thank you for attending this very important event organized by Republic of Serbia under the Vienna Document 1999. It is a fact that the Vienna Document 1999 continues to be an important document that has made an enormous contribution through its successful, consistent and long-standing implementation to improve confidence building among the OSCE participating states in its very important area of cooperation such as security. The Republic of Serbia continues to follow with particular attention and to actively participate in the negotiating activities conducted within the OSCE with a view to improving the Vienna document known as the Vienna Document Plus. Dear guests, it has been 8 years since the first visit by 48 representatives of the OSCE participating states and other international organizations to the Air Force base and a military unit stationed in the Republic of Serbia. During that period, the Republic of Serbia faced many challenges that many countries in transition had faced, especially bearing in mind the challenges concerning the unilateral declaration of independence of so-called Kosovo. It is our commitment to bring this area fully in conformity with the generally recognized European standards and present-day achievements of democratic states. Dynamic development has been achieved and the relation has been quietly improved in such important area as the reform process of the defense sector. This list of achievements it is very long, but please allow me just to refer briefly to some of them. The Republic of Serbia was invited to accede to the PFP program at the NATO Riga summit in 2006, and meanwhile our mission to NATO was set up with a full capacity. Serbia applied for European Union membership in December 2009, and we have actually started this year with the answer of the EC questionnaire, which we have hopefully completed with success. I have signed out first these two events because they, in my opinion, best reflect Serbia's commitment to the further reform of our society. I should also like to mention that the adoption of a number of important documents like the National Security Strategy and the Defense Strategy of Serbia, which were adopted in April 2009. On the basis of these doctrines and in line with the present security needs for protecting national interest, the Serbian armed forces have been sharply reduced in numbers, organizationally improved and made fully professional from January 1st of this year. The law of participation of the Serbian armed forces and other defense forces in multinational operations was passed in 2009. Members of the Serbian armed forces now participate in UN-led missions in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Cyprus and Lebanon. We expect that the framework agreement enables personnel from the Republic of Serbia to participate in EU crisis management operation will be signed very soon. In addition, we are looking forward to the signature of an agreement on security procedures for exchanging and protecting classified information between the Republic of Serbia and European Union. Consequently, we may expect that our representative will soon make a concrete contribution to their participation in an EU CSDP operation. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the Republic of Serbia attaches special importance to its cooperation with OSCE as a unique Euro-Atlantic organization. Even though the USC is active in several other areas, the security dimension remains to be the backbone of its activities aimed at the further promotion of mutual relations and trust. The present-day concept of comprehensive, indivisible, and collective security is closely related to issues such as arms control and confidence and security building measures. The Republic of Serbia is following closely and takes part in OSCE activities for improvements in the Vienna document that has previously helped to put in place a recognizable confidence and security building system, followed by adequate measures of transparency and openness, as well as by cooperation among the 56 OSCE participating states. Because of the significance of the changes that have taken place in the meantime, it is important that the Vienna document be brought in line with the current needs and challenges. Therefore, we welcome the ongoing talks within the OSCE Forum for Security Cooperation, which would be consecutive to the further streamlining and promotion of CSBM mechanism. The OSCE has successfully responded also to the new challenges, such as seeking an adequate response to the threat posed by international terrorism, appropriate measures to prevent the financing of terrorists, protection of documents, prevention of various forms of illicit trafficking, and others. Through its overall engagement and specific measures, the OSCE is making an effort to contribute in various ways toward averting new security threats. The Republic of Serbia attributes particular importance to interregional cooperation and security and confidence building. As a signatory party of Dayton-Paris Framework Agreement for Peace in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Agreement of Sub-Regional Armed Control, which was adopted under Article 4 of Annex 1B to the Dayton Agreement, we have made, along with the other parties to the agreement, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Republic of Croatia and Montenegro, an immeasurable and distinct contribution to the stabilization and security building in this region. It goes without saying that the timely, consistent and fully compliance with this agreement was a treaty instrument of special relevance that was crucial in helping to achieve the present level of confidence, stability and transparency. Its parties are today faced with another challenge, that of further transfer of ownership of the agreement to the parties. This process, which began in 2010, has been successful. It is due to be completed by the end of 2014 and led to the closing of the office of the personal representative of the OSCE chairman in office for Article 4. This will not mean an end to the further cooperation and contact with OSCE. It will surely take other forms and modalities, primarily direct contact between the parties and the relevant OSCE institutions. In this context, we have followed this with particular attention and interest the consultations over the adoption of framework agreement to help launch the negotiations of the changing and modernizing the regime of conventional forces in Europe. We sincerely hope that the regime of conventional forces in Europe consultation will be successfully concluded and that condition will be created thereby to include in future negotiations also interest OSCE participating states other than the 36 already participate. The Republic of Serbia is one of those interested parties within to take an active participation in the new negotiation of modernization of the armed control regime in Europe. In conclusion, let me welcome you once again and wish you a pleasurable stay and productive work here in Serbia, and I am convinced that this visit will further strengthen the successful implementation of the Vienna Document 1999. Thank you very much.
Hvala gospodine Vujiću. O reformama sistema odbrane Republike Srbije govorit će vam dr. Tanja Knjičević, državna sekretarka za politiku odbrane ministarstva.
So thank you, Mr. Vujic, and our State Secretary, Ms. Tanja Mirščević, who is our State Secretary for Defense Policy of the Ministry of Defense, is going to brief you about the reforms of the defense system of the Republic of Serbia. So, please, Mr. Mirščević, take the floor.
Thank you. I will also address in English language, but first, before welcoming you here, let me apologize for Assistant Minister Vujic and myself. We have today a very big conference here in Belgrade. Actually, it's the 10th anniversary of the OSCE mission here in Belgrade. So a lot of opportunity that the OSCE, the work of the OSCE becomes a very important topic, and it is for the reform process here in Serbia. Definitely, it is my pleasure to address you today and to welcome you on behalf of the Ministry of Defense and to introduce to you some of the reforms that are made and created here within the ministry since 2007 and even before that, but with a stress on the year 2007. We also, my colleagues from the sector, prepared the presentation, so we can start with the first slide. The reform process in Serbia has started back in year 2000, but the actual reforms in terms of the defense sector reforms they started back in 2003, but then again 2007 when the Serbia and the Serbian Ministry of Defense and the Serbian Armed Forces become the part of the structure of the Serbian government. For the first time after such a long period of time, Serbia actually had its own Ministry of Defense and its own armed forces. And the system of reforms has to be consolidated in accordance to the so-called standards of the reforms, which are the European standards of the reforms, starting with the strategic and doctrinal, then normal and legal, or introducing the new legal acts, then planning process, then organizational and functional in terms of organization and functioning of both of the ministry and the Serbian Armed Forces, and of course based on the fact that one of the major goals of Serbia, of the Republic of Serbia, is the international and of course regional cooperation. Let me explain, or let me go further in explaining each and every part of those elements of the reforms. As Mr. Vujic has stressed, the reforms have started with the strategic framework, with the approval and the adoption of the main strategies, so national security strategy of the Republic of Serbia and the defense strategy of the Republic of Serbia approved by the Serbian Assembly, and also the doctrine of the Serbian armed forces, which were approved by the President, according, of course, with the constitutional solutions here defined by the Serbian Constitution adopted back in 2006. So those strategies are definitely answering to the need for protecting the national interest, but both being in the close connection with the general processes of Serbia, which means the process of European integration and the process of the development in terms of fulfilling the standards which are necessary for the modern European state. The doctrine of the Serbian Armed Forces, which is based of the Serbian defense strategy or defense strategy of the Republic of Serbia, is definitely defining the general principles of the organization, preparation, engagement, and support of our armed forces in, of course, war and in the peace time. We are working currently in the services doctrines and lower level documents and regulation. We can go further. Those strategies are become operational in adopting the laws and the bylaws. So the normative framework was also put into the practice. In December 2007, the National Assembly approved the law on defense, law on armed forces and the law on security services, which is of course with the aim to create the normal legal framework for the functioning in accordance with the adopted strategy. We are happy to say that all legal acts, laws, but also strategies are, again, with the support of the OSCE mission here in Belgrade, were translated into the English language, and those acts could be downloaded from the website of the Ministry of Defense in English language, which is, of course, something of the element of approving a thing that we are very proud of. And this is the transparency of the work of the ministry and of the Serbian armed forces. This is, of course, the democratic and civilian control of the armed forces that we are very proud of, and that the assessment of a high level of the democratic and civilian control of the armed forces has been given by the report of the European Commission November 2010, and of course the report of the European Parliament of February 2011. The newest development in terms of the civilian and democratic control of the armed forces is the adoption of the law on the security services, but also the implementation of the law which envisaged the post of the Inspector General for the Security Services and the appointment of the first Inspector for the Security Services, which was appointed late 2010. In that manner, the Ministry has completely finalized all necessary elements for the full implementation of the civilian and democratic control of the armed forces. Of course, our role and our part is in helping the Assembly and the members of the Parliament in order to fulfill their goal. That means to stay open, transparent, and ready to help them in fulfilling their goals. The second part of the reform is of course the defense planning. So PPBE, planning, programming, budgeting and execution system, is the novelty for us. And let me tell you that this is a novelty for Serbia as such. The planning of the budget is the novelty for the Treasury, for the Ministry of Finance here in Serbia, and the Ministry of Defense is trying to be the front runner in introducing that type of programming the budget and the execution of the budget. We are now in the phases to prepare the new gold lines for the year starting 2012, 2017. And we are still in the learning process of the PPBE, and ready to hear all experience regarding this process. In the process of creating appropriate defense system reform planning framework, we also developed and adopted the long-term defense system development plan by 2020, then strategic defense review, midterm defense system development plan and programs 2011 and 2016, and we are now in the process of adopting the new ministerial guidance to implement and to give the full picture for the defense planning as it is. The very important The very important element of the reforms in the Serbian Ministry of Defense is definitely the introduction of the professional armed forces. Starting January 1st, 2011, the Serbian armed forces are completely professional. The projected number of the Serbian armed forces officers is 15%, non-commissioned officers 25%, of course, soldiers 45%, and civilians 15%. So this is those are the plans, and according to my information, I'm sure that you will discuss that even further. The professionalization is going smoothly in terms that we fulfill the capacities up to 90% of the needs for the professional armed forces, which is, according to the experience of other countries, is a good and a very positively assessed development in terms of the full professional armed forces. But we also give the possibility for those who are willing to voluntarily serve the military, to serve the Serbian armed forces. There is a possibility for young people to apply for the volunteers, to become volunteers, and there are 5,000 posts for the volunteers for this year, if I'm not wrong. Generals and officers will correct me if I'm wrong. But we have 3 times as many people interested to become volunteers, which is, again, a very good sign of showing the trust to the Serbian Armed Forces and, of course, the Ministry of Defense. According to the public polls, this is something which I would love to share with you. According to the public polls, Serbian Armed Forces now represent the most trustworthy state institution in the Republic of Serbia, which is for the first time after such a long period of time become the assessment not only from the international community but the assessment of the common people of the understanding what is going on, and in terms of understanding how important and how good in their eyes Serbian armed force is standing nowadays. On the other hand, the picture with the budget in the period of economic crisis is, of course, not a rosy one, and our budget is also restrictive in terms of the amount of money that we can have. For the period 2011-2040, between 2.1-2.4 GDP, but inadequate budget allocation. You can see on this chart that the percentage and the ratio is not the one that we would love to have. So the projected allocation of the budget is 50, 30, 20. And we expect to reach that ratio in the near future. We are not still here. We are not very happy. Of course, we are in terms of money that we have to give to the personnel for the salaries. And when you compare it with the investment and operational costs, this is not something that we are very proud of. But the situation with the investment is worse if you have in mind that the money which are allocated for the investment is actually the money that we need for the new armaments and the equipment. And please do bear in mind that the same defense budget, which means the restrictive one, was the budget that fulfilled the goals of the full professional army. So there were no additional money for the professionalization of the Serbian armed forces, which is the achievement per se, which is the achievement that was not very easy to achieve, definitely. And this is the new organizational chart and functional structure of the Ministry of Defense. So those elements of this chart are not very big, so I'm afraid that you cannot see each and everything. But if you are interested in the organizational chart, my colleagues will be very happy to provide to you, and you can also see it on the website of the ministry. So the main changes, which can be seen from, if you compare this with the previous organizational chart, is that there is a clear division in terms of the responsibilities between the ministry and the Serbian Armed Forces General Staff. Then the establishment on the functional structure of the Ministry of Defense, the rationalization of the number of posts in the Ministry of Defense, and balancing the military and civilian employees ratio within the within the ministry. This organizational chart is, of course, something that we pick up as the experience of other ministries of defense, especially in Europe, which means that it follows the standards and the organizational solution implemented in other countries. Such structural changes resulted in taking over the number of the responsibilities from the general staff and the armed forces, which do not belong, according to the standards, to the military organizations, such as the organization, education, financing, health, infrastructures, etc. That means that the ministry has now the 4 sectors: defense policy sector, then the human resource sector, material resource sector, and the sector for budget and planning. But additionally, ministry also has the Defense Inspectorate, Military Security Agency, Military Intelligence Agency, Public Relations Department, and Military Health Department. General staff is directly subordinated to the Ministry of Defense. But this is not the end. We, after several years of experiencing such organizational and functional structure, we are now going further in rethinking the further improvement in accordance with, again, the standards which exist in other countries. International military cooperation is something that we can be very proud of, in terms of the numbers, but also in terms of the substance. That means that we establish the very good cooperation with the region. We are participating in the regional initiatives. We are members of the several very important initiatives. The latest one that we become member is the Southeastern Europe Defense Ministerial meeting, if I'm not wrong, but others even before that. And we have the observer status at the A5. In the regional cooperation, we can be also very proud in terms that we established a network of the bilateral agreements with all countries within the region, within the Western Balkans or Southeastern Europe, if you want to look this as a wider region, a part of Albania, but not that we are not willing, but we are in the final phase of negotiating the establishment of that type of contractual cooperation. There is no obstacles, only the time that we have to finalize the negotiations. We are now a member of the PFP since 2006, so you can see the numbers in terms of fulfilling the all necessary elements of, or using the possible elements of the PFP, Partnership for Peace, nowadays. But the newest development, as Mr. Vujic has stated, the IPAP and SOFA, which is something that we are working very closely together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also other ministries in the Serbian government. We are participating in the multinational operations, UN multinational operations. Those are the numbers. Those are the areas that we are participating right now. We would love, and we are discussing with some of your countries, in terms of upgrading both the number and the quality of our presentation and participation in the multinational UN multinational operation. For this year, we planned 130 something. This is a plan of officers and the non-commissioned officers to participate in the multinational operations. We still did not reach that number, but we are now in a final phase in negotiating the full inclusion into a plan for this year. And finally, we are now in the final phase of signing the two security agreements with the European Union. As I told you, according to their assessment, the EU assessment, there is a huge development and the constant development, to quote the European Union, in terms of the defense policy harmonization with the EU standards. We are waiting the possible moment for signing those agreements on the inclusion into the military and civilian mission, as well as the exchange of the security information, is second half of June. Second half of June, there is a possibility. Why we are so keen to sign those two agreements? Because after signing those agreements, there is a possibility for us to be included for the first time in the EU military and civilian missions. And that will be the huge leap forward for the Serbian armed forces. So a part of participating into the UN missions for the first time, we will participate in the mission of some other international organization. And in that manner, supporting building the peace of the European countries and not being only the user of the missions of the European countries in our territory. This is a very important element for you to know. OSCE framework. Of course, this is something that I don't have to explain to you, but to pledge again that we are very dedicated to all of those documents and all of those verification missions that are not only obliged, but this is the international obligation and the will of Serbia to participate in both Vienna document and of course the implementation of the Dayton Peace Agreement Article 4 of the Dayton Peace Agreement as such. So, in that regard, positive quotas according to the Vienna document are conducted in a manner of openness and trust. And in 2011, Republic of Serbia has planned to conduct 6 passive and 6 active quotas, with 5 additional activities in terms of the sub-regional arms control agreement as one of the very important elements connected with this. OSCE document on the small arms and light weapons was also accepted in the Republic of Serbia back in 2010. New strategy on the control of small arms and light weapons in the period 2010-2015 is adopted. And again, according to some other assessment by the international community, this document is marked as the comprehensive and the document of the very high quality. So, if I have to summarize and put the emphasis on some of the very important priorities for the future, I will of course repeat myself, so I will not do that. But the emphasis will be, of course, the implementation in terms of modernization, in terms of upgrading our presence in protecting the international peace and stability, in terms of upgrading or introduce ourselves as the partner for the European security, and of course with the emphasis on our own regional cooperation, which we would like to strengthen. And for all this, we need to have the high quality capacity for fulfilling that type of reform. So personnel should be educated and trained abroad, and we will put much more emphasis, with, let's hope, much more money in infrastructure building. So, thank you very much for your attention. Hoping that I was not very long and that I gave you the overall picture of the reform process of Serbia, Serbian Armed Forces and the Ministry of Defense. Again, let me welcome you here in Belgrade, and I am sure that you will have a very fruitful visit. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ja bih se zahvalio državnoj sekretarki Tanji Miščević i pomoćniku ministra inostranih poslova gospodinu Milanu Vujiću. Sada je gospodo na red izbor našeg predstavnika koji će vas zastupati tokom ove posete. Predstavnici domaćina će se sada povući i napustiti ovu prostoriju, vi ćete ostati sami i kada izabere predstavnika, molio bih vas da nas pomažete da bi mogli da počnemo.